There we go. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. Hi, Shifra. Hi, Miriam. Hi, Rachel. Hello. You all hear me? Good? Sound check's good? Okay, I think we are also live streaming, I believe. Hello, Instagram, in case it actually works out with the live stream. And hello, LinkedIn, in case it actually worked out with the live stream. That would be really cool. I don't know if it worked out or not, but either way, I'm speaking as if you're there. Okay, so a bunch of us are here. I think maybe we'll wait another minute or two. Meanwhile, I will just fill you all in on my travels and adventures. So as most of you know, we were in Eretz Israel for Sukkot, which was huge for us. It was a really exciting thing and not something we've ever done before. And it felt like a massive zchus to be there. We did have trouble getting home, but we're here. I'm here, safe and sound, Baruch Hashem, and grateful to be back. But also, Libi B'Mizrach. My heart is in Yerushalayim, that is for sure. People ask me if it ruined my trip. Totally, totally not. It was such an incredible trip, and it was also actually felt really special to be there during this time of war. And my daughter's in seminary, so I got to be supportive of her there. And I think I would have been much more worried about her had I not been there. So, all in all, I'm extremely grateful to have been there. Actually, on one of the days of last week, I don't even remember because they all blurred into one. My son went to go get a bracha from a makubal, and the makubal told him the skies will open up soon. Don't worry about it. But meanwhile, Eretz Yisrael wants you here. And I really took that to heart as like trying to really see being in Eretz Yisrael during that time as a zchus, not like some sort of like punishment or something bad or whatever it is, but just as a zchus that Eretz Yisrael was just not letting us go. Anyway, so after 48 hours of travel, after a week of being on the phone with airlines, and then 48 hours of travel, we got back. What's today? Wednesday, so late Monday night, and we're here. So I'm going to start. We have about 8 of us on and live stream. I'm going to get started. I have a lot to share. I'm getting a lot of questions from people just during this challenging time, and I actually feel super grateful to be in a position to be able to offer some words of chizuk, hopefully, for just kind of what to do with ourselves. Like, as a nation, as people, as mothers, and we're in pain and we're trying to sort of get back to normal life. Even getting back to normal life after Yontif is always challenging, but like doing it with our hearts broken, I think is just adding another whole layer. And for a lot of people, that's also translating into food and their eating habits, and a lot of people are eating their emotions. And or just don't feel like it's like important enough to even focus on. They just can't focus on it. Not so much about eating the emotions, but just, the same way people can't focus on work and can't focus on anything, so they can't focus on their food. So I'm here to help. I hope that I'm going to be able to be helpful. But even just knowing that there's a bunch of you on this call and a whole bunch more people live streaming, you're not alone. So I think that's the first thing to know. Okay. And by the way, if I'm going to leave time for questions towards the end, and I really just want to pace myself because I have until about 11:40. Okay, so I wanted to share some first an email. Okay, let me pull it up. I'm going to read it directly to you. Okay, the email. From your perspective, how can I be strong and stay off sugar when feeling so overwhelmed? Knowing that it's not my responsibility to hold up the world. Yes, I can be nice, blank, blank, blank. She's talking about a specific situation that she's affected by that has to do with Eretz Yisrael. I can do my share at work and so on, but how do I handle feeling so overwhelmed? And my response was, okay, as far as regarding being overwhelmed by emotions, that is a big question. I'm just reading directly. I think you answered it already, though. Your intuition is telling you that you can't hold up the world. We are human. Hashem knows that we are. We are taught that there's a kol zman va'es, there's a time and place for everything. What's working for me is to set aside time maybe half an hour a day to talk to Hashem, feel his pain, feel the suffering of Klal Yisrael, and cry out. And then we do our best to be strong. As falling apart or feeling fear, guilt, shame, or unworthiness is the work of the Yetzer Hara. Hashem sees into our hearts. He knows we are with our brothers in pain. He knows that even as we go about our work, we are not callous or uncaring. We will win. We will win this war by improving ourselves and by continuing to do Hashem's work. And those were the words that I felt were what she needed to hear. I think I also needed to tell it to myself, which is, there's different emotions. There's heavy emotions. Pain. The pain is the primary emotion, and if we're feeling fear, we can let it go. If we're feeling anger at Hashem, we can let it go. If we're feeling anything that we're feeling, we're letting go. The pain for our brothers and sisters, we're supposed to be feeling with them, but at the same time, getting consumed by it is not helping them, right? Drowning in our food, or just not getting things done, right? Or just sort of drowning, letting the day drown us because we're so distraught, is not bringing our soldiers back. It's not, and I know we know this, but we have to tell ourselves this. It's not going to bring the soldiers back. It's not going to bring the captives back, right? And so we have to check ourselves and say, what is this emotion? Is it pain? Hold it, right? Is it questions about God? Hold it. They're valid. Because we don't see everything. And so we have good questions. They are good questions. We should be asking these questions, right? We should be saying, what is this? But the question we should be saying is, I don't understand. And the way we should be answering it is, I can't understand. I can't understand. Y.Y. Jacobson talks about that. He said, respect the question. Respect the questions. We can't understand why little children who are pure have to suffer. But at the same time, we don't have to feel guilt for being alive and well. We don't have to feel guilt for being alive and well. That's the Yetzer Hara. And we don't have to feel fear. That's the Yetzer Hara, right? Pain, yes, we suffer with them, but it's not our job to feel fear. It's not our job to feel guilt, right? But we have to sort of figure out how to contextualize it. So I want to usually this monthly class is a Rosh Chodesh class, but Rosh Chodesh I was in between nowhere and nowhere. I was in Athens, so I was going to skip the class completely, but then I realized I have so much to say, and I keep getting emails and texts and everything. So I'm actually bringing from the Parsha, and I'm sure most of you have seen everything going around about Hamas and Hamas, and it was Hamas, right? Hashem destroyed the world because of Hamas, right? And I thought that was pretty cool and interesting and powerful, but I really want to take some lessons from Noach, right? So Noach was considered an Ish Tzaddik, Tamim Hayab, in his generation, right? And Rashi says that there's different understandings. This could either be said as a shevach for him, like, wow, even with all these cracked out people, he was still a decent person, right? He was still a tzaddik. Or it could be said as a ganai, like a bad thing, right? What's a ganai? Like, yeah, he was a tzaddik because everybody else was worse, right? So he was better than everybody else, so that was worse. So it was right. So he was better than everyone else, so he was considered a tzaddik, right? I take those two and I say good. Either way is fine. Either he was actually a tzaddik, even though he was in a rotten generation, or he was only a tzaddik because he was because of the rotten generation. But regardless, he was saved, right? And to me, this is very comforting, which is that good enough is good enough, right? We don't have to be, right? And it says bid doro so in his generation. What's the generation? 20 years. That's it. And maybe in those days it was more, right? But the wording of Doros, right? When we talk about Doros, we talk about 20, 30 years, the previous generation. You just need to be your generation, right? You don't have to be greater than your grandparents. You don't have to be greater than your great-grandparents. You don't have to be Rebbetzin, Batsheva, whatever, Kanevsky. You need to be in your generation, right? Hashem knows what we deal with in our generation, right? Just like Hashem understood that Noach in his generation was a tzaddik. Right? We just need to be all right. We just need to be decent people in our generation. He might not have even been a tzaddik. He was just a decent person in his generation, right? And to me, that was very comforting, which is that our job right now, in order to be saved, is just to be a tzaddik in our generation. Just a little bit. I found that comforting. The other piece that I wanted to take away from Noach was so after the whole Mabul and everything, his entire world as he knew it was completely obliterated and destroyed, right? Every single person, every neighbor, you got to assume that he spoke to these people, right? You got to assume all his neighbors were dead. You got to assume all his, distant relatives, everyone was dead except his immediate family, right? And even if they were rotten people, this was his whole entire world. Gone, 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 completely gone, which is, I think his world as he knew it was over. And I think we can sort of relate to that to a certain extent, right? And he's saved and he's spared. What does he do? He comes out after the teva, he plants some grapes, and he drinks, and he, and then afterwards, instead of being called Ish Tzaddik, he's downgraded. Now he's called Ish Adama. He's basic. He's tzaddik, and now he's adama. He's an earthy person. He's basic, right? So the question is, what did he do wrong? So simple answer is he drank wine, right? He drank wine. He got drunk. He shouldn't have done that, right? But that's not the answer. In fact, we have multiple sources, and I actually brought sources here, but I'm just going to not pull them up for the sake of time. That wine actually is appropriate. And I'm getting to the food point here very quickly. But wine is actually an appropriate thing to drink. In fact, an Avel is allowed to drink wine, even, right? An Avel who has so many halachos and everything like that, they're allowed to drink wine. In fact, that's exactly why wine was created, to appease the soul, right? And so it can't be that he wasn't supposed to drink wine. And in our, nowadays, maybe some of us drink wine, but a lot of us turn to food, but I think it's very similar, right? And the idea is that food also wasn't just created as a functional thing, it was created for pleasure, right? And I think it's okay to take some pleasure from food. And we know that Noach was not held accountable for drinking that wine when his whole entire world was destroyed. What was the problem? If you look at the text, if you look at the wording of the text there, it actually says Hayayin. And the hay, for those of us who went to Beis Yaakov's, the hay is a hay hayadia, right? Which means it's talking about a specific, right? It's specific, the wine, right? Which means that, and this is my understanding, I ran it by my husband, who's actually Talmid Chacham, and he told me it's all right. He told me it holds up. I said, perhaps the Genai, perhaps the missed opportunity that Noach is held responsible for is that after he watched the whole world be destroyed and there's a completely new world order, right? And it's pretty jarring. It's pretty shaking up. Like if we think we're shaken up, imagine the entire world being shaken up, right? He went and he drank Hayai, the wine, same old, right? Meaning he didn't change. He missed the chance to change. He missed it. It was just the wine, the same wine. He just went back into, right? It's not that he drank. It's okay that he drank. And it's okay if we eat a little bit, right? But what we can't do is we can't allow ourselves to just fall back into our very same old habits, right? And I'm going to talk about this on a practical level. But I just want to share something that is kind of personal, but it was kind of scary. So I was in Israel and I'm sending, on my family WhatsApp chat, I was sending videos and pictures of my family, and we're like thriving and we're having a beautiful time. And my husband and my sons are Kohanim. So we went to Birkas Kohanim and I sent pictures of that. And, I sent it on the family chat, and my mother said something like, wow, Basia, you seem like you are like really in your element. And I wrote back some like happy emoji or whatever. And I said, I may just never come back. That was Erev second days. Okay, because it was right after Birkas Kohanim, which was Wednesday, Erev second days. Shabbos comes, we start hearing the sirens. Motzei Shabbos, Sunday night comes, we start hearing the news and everything. My son comes over, my son's on that chat also with his phone, and he says, Ma, this held up pretty well, because we realized we're getting stuck there. And I got like this fear. Like, what if I had like a nevuah? Like, what if I'm really never coming back, right? Because this is the Yerushalayim, and there's sirens going off, and we're actually watching the Iron Dome explode the bombs, and right, it was very, very real to me, right? And most of the time I wasn't really afraid, but I read that, and I was like, he was saying it as a joke, Ma, this held up pretty well. Like, look, right? I said, oh my God, what if I'm really never coming back? And that was the only time I felt fear. And I went and I did my Hitbodedut, which I do every day. And I was talking to myself, and I realized something, which was that I don't have to come back. right? When we daven, right? When we daven, what's the point of davening? It's not that we ask and then we get, it's that we ask and we trust. And by trusting, we change the person who we are. We change ourselves and become worthy, right? And so, no, I'm not coming back. I am going to come back. The Basya of October whatever 11th, right, is not coming back. She's not coming back. I'm home, Baruch Hashem. I'm sitting here, right? But I'm hoping that I left that version behind, and I did a lot of introspection of I can't come back. I can't come back the same. I have to be changed. I have to daven more, but I have to change on a deep level, right? And I think that, so I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about this Noach where it said Hayayin, where it was the same old, and he really didn't, he didn't take the lesson that he was supposed to take in from it, and that downgraded him into the Adam, right? And it really just, I felt peaceful after that. I said, I don't have to be afraid that what if I'm not coming back? I'm not coming back, right? I must change. I must change. And I think that that's the message that I want to share, is that we don't have to be afraid, and we're allowed to have questions, and we're allowed to even eat a little bit if we're stressed, right? But let's not do what he did. Let's not do what Noach did. It's not a mistake that this parsha is now. Let's learn from his mistakes. I was listening to something by Rabbi Eitan Feiner, and he was talking about how after the Holocaust, right, and everybody and right, they mamish rebuilt, right? Torah in America and Torah in Israel and Torah everywhere is a direct result of everybody coming out of the Holocaust and saying, not just gonna go back to the way things were. They had their emunah intact and they rebuilt, right? And I think that if we just remind ourselves that we don't have to have a brand new one tefillah changes us. One tefillah changes us, right? We just have to not get stuck in our old habits and our old patterns and our old, right. So something. And there was this amazing thing. I hope everybody signed up for it. It says just one thing, and you sign up and you choose what you want to work on, and you get matched with a soldier. Do that. And take it seriously. Become, right, one tefillah helps. I had an interesting experience. Two things. So there's so much Tehillim to be said, right? We're davening for soldiers, and we're davening for the captured, and we're davening for people to get home safely, and right. And I almost felt like, first of all, there's never going to be enough tefillos. Like I can't, right? There's not enough tears, and there's not enough tefillos, and then so my guilt starts coming up, and my fault, and I start feeling insecure, and I start feeling like I'm falling short, and I'm not doing enough, right, and all that. So anyway, and in the meantime, I'm also focusing on myself because I need to get home, and I'm feeling guilty about that, right? And we were trying to get on a rescue flight out, because finally the U.S. decided that for a small fee, which they won't disclose, or a large fee, which they won't disclose, they'll bring us and dump us in Athens, and we can find our way home, and we have to sign a promissory note and whatever. I said, let's just do it. Let's go to the airport. And then there was a massive line in the airport. And so I started saying, like, guys, I started saying to my family, guys, let's daven that we get on this first flight out, because there was one at 5 a.m. and we left Motzei Shabbos the airport. There was one at 5 a.m. Sunday morning, and then at 10 and at 12. I said, let's daven, right? And for a minute, I felt like, why am I davening for myself? And like, and all these little tefillos, are they even helping? And and am I crying enough? And right, I was like, I didn't even want to say let's daven, right? But I said, like, okay, that's not the right way to think about it. The right way to think about it is that every single tefillah changes us. So I called my family together, and we said a parak of Tehillim. Nisim v'niflaos. There were 70 people before us on standby for that 5 o'clock flight. We got on. That was story number one. And I was conscious as I was saying the Tehillim that I'm saying this because I stand firm in my belief that every little Tehillim helps, and there's nothing too small to daven for, and it's okay to daven for anything. Couple hours, 28 hours later, when we landed in JFK, so we're 6 people, and we're 12 pieces of luggage, and we've been 6 people and 12 pieces of luggage forever, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I said, guys, let's gather around. And I was conscious of it again, that maybe this is petty, and right, and maybe my tefillos aren't good enough and whatever. And I said, I'm just going to daven. I said, guys, gather around. Let's daven that when we call an Uber, we get a good SUV that fits us all, right? We're doing an Uber XL, but Uber XL could be squishy, or it could be a minivan, or it could be, right? 4 minutes later, massive Suburban pulls up, massive, comfortable room for everybody. My husband doesn't even have to sit in the front. The luggage is comfortable in the back, and no packages on people's laps, right? And I was very conscious of I was very tuned into the fact that Hashem was telling me, your tefillos matter. The little ones matter. You can daven for everything. It's enough. It's good 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 enough. I accept it. Right? We don't always daven for something and get what we want, but like we're used to that, right? We daven and right, we're used to that. But in these times, a lot of times we feel like the tehillim is not enough, or it's feeling short, or I'm not doing it right, or whatever it is. And I got two very, very clear messages that just do it, do your little bit, just change a little bit. It's good enough. So that was what I really wanted to pass along to everybody. Just because I'm getting a lot of messages about food, messages about feeling overwhelmed, messages about not being able to get back to ourselves, right? And I think that I hope that this, the message of Noach, right, which is it can't be hayam, it can't be exactly the same. We got to change, but at the same time, I'm just admitting some. Hold on, we got to change, but at the same time, the change that we do make is enough. Right, I got that message very clearly from those two times, the little tehillim and this and that, right? And I think we just have to keep pushing and keep pushing that one extra pasuk, that one little paragraph of tehillim, right? Just make sure that we're just not the same exact people that we were, and then allow yourself, right? And then allow yourself to go about your business, right? With the pain in our hearts, right? It's appropriate. It's appropriate. With the pain in our hearts, but it doesn't mean that we have to drown, and it doesn't mean that we have to stop, and we have to ask ourselves, is this helping, right? Is this helping, right? Because sometimes we feel like it's our responsibility to be miserable, right? Like if we're happy, we're callous and we're leaving them behind. It's not. Our pain is there. It's in our heart. Hashem sees it. He sees right into our hearts, right? But also we have to ask ourselves, what would the soldiers want us to be doing? They want us to be saying words of prayer, but they want us to not be living in fear. They want us to be going about our business, right? If we could help on the front lines, good. If we can't help on the front lines, you're on the front lines. You say your tehillim and go on, right? So you have to just keep asking yourself, is this serving? Is this serving? Right? Because that way we can sort of let go of the part of us that's saying like it's inappropriate to be happy, or it's inappropriate to do work, or it's inappropriate to get back on track, or it's inappropriate to care about my weight, or it's inappropriate to be petty about, caring how I look and all that stuff, right? That's the Yetzer Hara. That's the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara is in shambles right now, because Klal Yisrael is roaring. Klal Yisrael is roaring. Klal Yisrael is roaring. The amount of schusim, the amount of schusim, the amount of schusim, the amount of schusim. Every single person, any of you on Zoom, you have some sort of access to something, right? You're seeing it constantly. Klal Yisrael is roaring. Hashem should help keep it this way, but I have not seen one word of negativity amongst ourselves. Yeah, Biden's bashing Trump. Good, let them do their thing, right? But I have not seen one word of a yid against another yid. If it is, it's minimal, right? A mother in pain yelling at the government or whatever it is, right? But there's a massive amounts of achdus. The Satan is going nuts, right? And so he's going to try to make us feel guilty. He's going to try to bring us down. He's going to try to make us feel sad. He's going to try to let us let go of our lives. He's going to tell us our tehillim is not enough. He's going to tell us that our mitzvahs, that our tefillos are not enough. He's going to try to start machlokas. He's going to do whatever he could do. Let's keep roaring. Let's keep roaring. Let's not let up. I read a news report that the reservists have responded at 130%, right? Which means basically, if I need 100,000 soldiers, I'll call 200,000 soldiers so that 100,000 show up. So anyway, 100,000 soldiers called 200 soldiers, 130,000 showed up, right? Meaning they're over capacity based, that they're at 130% because the Chayalim are strong and they're fighting. And I really feel that we're reflecting that on the home front also. The statuses have not stopped, the initiatives have not stopped. And again, it doesn't have to be massive. If we shine light, right? You go into a pitch black room, right? And you put a tea light. The darkness is gone just from a tea light, right? 100,000 square feet of darkness, and you put in a light bulb on the wall, and the darkness is gone. The darkness cannot stand up to light, and it's not. We're seeing Gaza hit their own right? Gaza hit their own hospital. Boom, 500 of them down. We didn't have to do anything, right? An earthquake, 2,000 Afghanistan's down. We didn't have to do a thing, right? We just got to keep doing what we're doing. I'm telling you that we're making these earthquakes. I really believe that. We're making these earthquakes just with our little prakim of Tehillim, right? So the message is get back on track, plan your day, live your life, drink a little wine, take a little treat, and then just keep saying your Tehillim and keep shedding your lights. And whatever, if you don't remember how to sort of do this, go back to, I don't know, 2 weeks before Sukkot when you were just, or it's been a long time since normal. That's the truth, because there's the summer and then there's the Yom Tov season and all of that. But try to just remember what a normal weekday looks like. Plan your day in advance. When you plan your day in advance, do it with Rahmanas, especially if you're sort of easing off of the Yom Tov appetite, and especially if you're feeling overwhelmed with emotion. That little extra treat or something might make it, a little bit easier to transition, right? But the idea is live your life, but not as the same person that you were before last Shabbos, right? Live your life as a new person, just even a tiny, tiny little bit better, shining a tiny bit more light. And I think I believe that that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us right now. I am going to, perfect. Okay. So I want to take time for questions. They don't have to be practical questions. They could be any sort of questions, and there's no questions that are too small or too dumb. I spoke what was on my mind, and I think it probably resonated, I hope. And so you can assume that if something's on your mind, it will probably resonate too. So if you have anything on your mind, please feel free to ask. Someone here won't be shy. And it could be about food, and it could be about emotional, and it could be about, spiritual.